Okay, so get this. You sent me this blog post about fishing line, and it kind of got me thinking about how childhood is changing these days.
Fishing line.
Huh?
That's pretty specific.
I know, right? But just wait, it gets interesting. So the post is called Remembering the Fishing Lines of My Youth, and it's from this website, kianmeng.org. It's run by a guy named Ang, and his website is all over the place. You can find anything from software tips to fish keeping photography, even dieting advice. Seems like he's a pretty curious guy, likes to learn new things.
So what's the connection to fishing line then?
Well, Aang saw a familiar brand of fishing line in a store, and it just hit him with this wave of nostalgia. He doesn't even fish anymore. But seeing that object brought back all these memories. It made me think, what objects from your childhood have that same power? Like for me, it's the smell of crayons. Instantly takes me back to kindergarten.
Wow, that's really interesting. Psychologists actually have a name for that. It's called the Proust phenomenon. Basically, sensory experiences can unlock these hidden emotional associations from our past.
Exactly. And Aang's post goes on to talk about how, even though he doesn't fish much these days, he still appreciates those dedicated fishing ponds you see around. They're like these little pockets of calm in the middle of our busy lives.
That's true. It makes you wonder how our leisure activities have changed over time.
Hmm.
I mean, fishing is still around, of course,
Yeah.
but technology has totally changed how people spend their free time now. Like, think about the rise of esports or even virtual reality experiences that try to recreate nature. It's a whole different world.
You're right. And that's where Aang's post gets really interesting. He talks about how so many kids growing up in cities today are basically stuck in these concrete jungles. They don't get to experience the things that people who grew up near nature just take for granted.
And there's a lot of research now that shows those experiences are really important for development. There's this book, Last Child in the Woods
Mm-hmm.
by Richard Louv. He talks about nature deficit disorder,
Hmm.
which basically links a lack of nature exposure to all sorts of problems from attention issues to less creativity.
Wow, I've never heard of that. So it's not just about missing out on fun, it could actually have real consequences.
Yeah, potentially. And Ang makes this specific point about comparing urban kids with kids who live near rivers, lakes, or the sea. He talks about how much joy those kids find in fishing in those environments.
And it's not just fishing, is it? It's about having the freedom to explore, to take risks, to learn by actually doing things. Think about the games kids play in rural areas versus in cities. It's a totally different experience.
Exactly. Urban environments, just by their nature, tend to limit or change those kinds of experiences. Even something as simple as building a fort in the woods becomes a lot more complicated in a city.
That's true. It makes you wonder, what are WE missing out on by designing childhoods that are so separated from nature?
Wow. It's kind of crazy to think that a simple thing like fishing line could lead to a conversation about the future of childhood. But here we are. It really shows how powerful observation can be. And Eng's post really got me thinking about solutions. Like if we could design cities that bridge this gap between urban and rural experiences, what would that look like?
Okay, let me try to picture it. Rooftop gardens full of vegetables, kids building forts in these wild, untamed parks right in the middle of the city.
Yeah, I love it. You're getting at something important there. It's not just about having more green space. It's about the quality of that space.
Yeah.
It needs to be nature that you can actually interact with,
Hmm.
not just a perfect lawn with a sign that says, keep off the grass.
Exactly. Like imagine if community gardens were just part of every neighborhood. People could grow their own food, connect with their neighbors, and kids could learn about where their food comes from.
Right. And there's this whole movement around that idea. It's called urban rewilding. Cities like Singapore are leading the way. They're integrating nature into their infrastructure in some really cool ways.
Hmm.
Have you seen anything like that where you live?
Yeah, actually. There's this group that's been turning abandoned lots into these little mini forests. It's amazing how quickly nature can take over these spaces.
That's great to hear. And it's not just about how it looks or having fun either. There's more and more research showing that being around nature is good for our mental and physical health. It can reduce stress, help you focus, even boost your creativity.
So it's not just for the kids, it's for us grown-ups too.
Absolutely. There's something called biophilic design. It's all
Oh.
about incorporating natural elements into our buildings and spaces. Things like natural light plants, using natural materials, even just being able to see nature from your window can make a difference.
So it's like recognizing that we as humans are meant to connect with nature even if we live in cities.
Exactly. It goes back to what Aang was saying about those rural childhood experiences.
Yeah.
That sense of freedom, exploration, learning through actually doing things. Those are things we can try to bring into urban environments.
But isn't that kind of a challenge? I mean, cities are designed for safety and efficiency, and sometimes that means less freedom and exploration.
You're right, that's a good point. And I think that's where we need to rethink how we plan our cities.
Right.
Maybe we need to be a little more flexible, create spaces that are wilder and less structured on purpose.
It's like we've become so afraid of risk that we've taken all the fun out of childhood. Remember building forts in the woods,
Yeah.
climbing trees? That was just part of growing up.
And those experiences taught us important things like resilience, how to solve problems, how to be creative. Maybe instead of trying to eliminate risk, we should be finding ways to manage it, to create environments where kids can explore and learn, but still be safe.
I like that managed risk. It's about trusting kids, giving them space to discover and learn in their own way.
Exactly. And who knows? Maybe those experiences will lead to a lifelong love of nature, just like that brand of fishing line sparked Aang's nostalgia.
We've talked about a lot of things here, like nostalgia and urban design and how kids grow up, but I keep thinking about what all of this means for each of us?
That's a great question. It kind of brings us back to the main point of Aang's post.
Yeah, totally. I mean, this whole deep dive started with just a photo of fishing line, and look where we ended up.
Right. It just shows you that even the most ordinary things can have a lot of meaning.
Mm.
They can bring back memories, make you feel things, even make you think about your own life in a new way.
And it's not just about the past, right? It's about paying more attention to things now, too. Like noticing the little things that make you curious and seeing where those thoughts take you.
Exactly. It's about keeping that sense of wonder, being open to seeing the world in new ways. Kind of like being an anthropologist, always watching and trying to understand the cultures we live in.
I like that. And the more we share those observations, the more we can learn from each other.
Aang's blog post is a perfect example of that. He shared something personal, and it started this whole big conversation.
And that's what's so cool about deep dives. You never know where they'll go, but it's always worth the trip.
Yeah, it reminds you that we never stop learning and discovering and connecting with things. And sometimes the best lessons come from the most unexpected places.
I couldn't agree more. Well, thanks for joining us on this journey. We hope it gave you some new ideas to think about. And if you have any childhood memories or thoughts you want to share, we'd love to hear them.
Keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep those deep dives going. See you next time.